A wealthy farmer's arrival during a storm transforms life for a single mother with 3 kids. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves, stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down Clara's spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Clara pressed her forehead against the cold window pane, her heart racing. Thunder rumbled like a freight train, rolling through the valley, reminding her of all that she had lost. It had only been 3 months since she had buried her husband, but the storm outside unleashed memories that felt like wounds still fresh and bleeding. Lightning split the sky in a flash of blinding light with fear. "Mommy," Sarah cried, her voice trembling, "I don't like storms." Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes. She longed to shield them from everything: the storm, their father's absence, the uncertainty that clouded their lives. Just as she gathered her resolve to comfort them, a loud knock echoed through the house, startling her. She glanced towards the door, instincts screaming for her to ignore it. There was no one else to turn to. She had to keep her children safe. But then she heard the voice, strong and steady. "Clara, it's Nathaniel. You've got to let me in." The name sent a shiver down her spine. Nathaniel, the wealthy farmer, with a reputation for being stern and unwavering, had never shown much interest in her or her family. Why would he come now? Another crack of thunder shook the foundation, the wind pounding against the door relentlessly. Clara hesitated, but felt the pressing need for shelter, both from the storm and the shadows creeping inside her heart. With a deep breath, she swung open the door, and the wind howled like a wounded beast. Nathaniel stood there, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes bright with concern. "Clara, come inside." Reluctantly, she stepped aside, letting him enter. The warmth of his presence was overshadowed by the fear still curling around her heart. The children cowered behind Clara, blinking wide-eyed. But Nathaniel's gaze softened, and he knelt to their level, offering a reassuring smile. "Let's play a game while the storm passes, all right?" he suggested. And for the first time, Clara noticed a hint of gentleness beneath his hardened exterior. As they settled inside, the storm raged on outside, a chaotic symphony of thunder, lightning, and rain. But as the wind howled, so did the questions swirl around her mind. Whispers of her husband's past began to echo. Secrets she had always brushed aside, suddenly demanding her attention. Nathaniel knew things about him she didn't, and fear gripped her heart. Would this storm bring them together, or tear apart what little she had left? She stole a glance at Nathaniel, his eyes reflecting shadows of untold stories. Did he carry the weight of those secrets? And as they sat on the edge of a precipice, with the storm battering their lives in its fury, one truth became clear. The night was only beginning, and the darkness had only begun to reveal itself. The wind howled like a beast, crashing against the walls as Nathaniel settled beside Clara and her children. His earlier warmth radiated through the dim room, but Clara still felt the nagging tension wrapped tightly around her heart. She held her breath, listening to the storm beyond, knowing it was more than just thunder that rattled her. "Let's play a game, okay?" Nathaniel smiled widely, trying to lighten the mood. The children's frightened faces began to ease, and Clara felt a flicker of gratitude. But that flicker was quickly snuffed out by a shadow creeping into her mind. Suddenly, there came a loud bang from outside, sharp and startling. It resonated through the house like a gunshot. Clara jumped, and the children gasped together, their wide eyes glued to her. She shushed them gently, trying to catch her breath. "Just the storm," she whispered, but the words felt hollow. Her instincts urged her to check the window, but as she turned, a crashing noise seemed to erupt from a nearby room. Something heavy shifted and fell. Clara's heart raced. "Stay here," she hissed softly, glancing at Nathaniel, whose expression turned serious. "Clara, I'll go," he replied, surprising her with the boldness she had not expected from him. Without waiting for an answer, he strode toward the sounds. She wanted to grab his arm, to hold on and keep him close, but fear wrapped around her throat, choking back her voice. Every step he took echoed deep within her, and she watched as the storm cracked outside, blinding flashes illuminating the old house. There it was again, a thud, low and heavy, enough to make the walls shake. Time slowed. Clara's breathing quickened, and she felt the air thickening, like a premonition lurking just beyond sight. Then, silence. Clara's heart dropped. She leapt past Sarah, Tommy, and Ellie, chasing after Nathaniel. As she entered the dim corridor, the shadows felt alive, twisting and curling outward. "Nathaniel?" she called, her voice trembling. The house was too quiet. She pressed forward, driven by a sense of urgency. When she caught a glimpse, Nathaniel stood in the doorway of a room she had never noticed before, the door slightly ajar, the air murky and thick. "Clara," he breathed, his voice strained. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the space behind him, and what she saw sent a jolt through her entire being. Stacks of old newspaper clippings littered the floor, yellowed pages detailing a series of tragic events, missing persons. And her breath caught. Her husband's name. No, the articles were framed by a picture of Nathaniel and her husband together, smiling, arms slung over shoulders. Why are you in here?" The words fled from her lips, desperate, trembling. A truth unfurled before her like an unfathomable abyss. Nathaniel shifted awkwardly, the guilty weight of it heavy on his shoulders. "I can explain." Crack! A loud crash erupted outside, the storm raging more fiercely than ever, originating somewhere in the depths of this old farmhouse. "Explain what?" Clara's voice rose, panic and confusion intertwining as her heart slammed against her chest. "What do you mean? You knew him? You—" Before she could finish, the floor beneath them ripped apart with an unsettling roar, and suddenly, Clara and Nathaniel were plunged into darkness, the ground giving way beneath their feet. No! There wasn't time to scream. No time at all. Just shadows closing in, secrets clawing at their minds, her heart racing as the abyss swallowed them whole. What were the real secrets hidden in this cursed farmhouse? Would they ever see the light again? The ground trembled under them, and Clara felt her stomach drop as they fell. She reached desperately for something to hold on to, but there was nothing. Just darkness swallowing them, chaos erupting around them. She cried out, choking on a sob, fear gripping her tight. Then they landed, not on solid ground, but on something soft, like a thick layer of moss. Clara gasped for breath. The wind knocked out of her. She blinked, her eyes struggling to adjust. The dim light glimmered around them, revealing a strange underground chamber, lined with old stone walls, dripping with moisture. It smelled like damp earth, suffocating and sour. "Nathaniel," she croaked, feeling the panic rise. "Are you okay?" He groaned beside her, pushing himself up. "Yeah, I think." His voice was shaky, and for a moment they only stared at each other, uncertainty reflecting in their eyes. But before she could ask what just happened, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The walls seemed to quiver, and something flickered in the shadows. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. "What is this place?" she whispered, terror clawing at her throat. Nathaniel stood, brushing dirt off his clothes. "I don't know," he said, his face a mask of concern. "But we need to—" Suddenly, a shimmering light burst through the darkness, illuminating the area. There, standing at the end of the chamber, was a figure. A woman cloaked in shadows, her eyes like glimmering fireflies piercing through the opaque darkness. Clara's breath caught. "Welcome," the woman said, her voice smooth as silk, but dripping with malice. Clara felt cold bile rise in her throat. How could someone still radiate such a sinister energy in the presence of light? "Who are you?" Clara demanded, heart racing. Fear flooded through her, pooling at her feet with every second that passed. The woman smiled, a knowing smirk that twisted the lips like a sneer. "Oh dear Clara, you have no idea." Nathaniel stepped forward, but Clara grabbed his arm. "Stay back!" Panic laced her voice. But Nathaniel shook his head, determination flashing in his eyes. "Clara, I think she knows something." "Yes, I do," the woman replied, her tones silky sweet. "I know everything." Clara's chest tightened, the air thick with unspoken truths. "What do you mean?" A flicker of darkness swirled around the woman, coiling like smoke, and she turned her fiery gaze to Nathaniel. "And I know you, Nathaniel, the secrets you've buried." "What secrets?" Clara gasped, confusion swirling in her mind like the storm outside. The woman laughed softly, a cruel sound resonating in the cave. "The ones that could unravel everything you thought you knew. Those precious memories and the ones you've lost." A wave of horror washed over Clara. She felt raw, exposed. "Stop it! You're scaring my children!" she shouted, desperation gripping her throat. But the woman only grinned. Wider. They're safe for now. But the truth about their father, now that could change everything. Father? Clara's world spun. Her head throbbed with a sickening ache. "What do you know about him?" The woman leaned closer, her whisper barely audible, but searing with intensity. "You should have never buried the past, Clara. It's rising. And once it does, everything will be undone." Before Clara could process her words, the ground shook again. The chamber trembled, and rocks began to fall from above. The light around them flickered. "What's happening?" Clara shouted, panic twisting her stomach. "Don't look back!" Nathaniel yelled, but Clara was already turning. Shadows swirled around her, chaos erupted, and the woman laughed, echoing that horrid sound as darkness consumed them. In that moment, Clara's heart shattered. The truth was unraveling, secrets that could change everything. Did she truly know Nathaniel? Was everything before this moment just a lie waiting to be revealed? She was lost in a storm far worse than the one outside, and it had only just begun. As Clara stood paralyzed, shadows danced wildly around her, the air thick with uncertainty and dread. The woman's laughter rang out like a chilling melody, but in that moment, something shifted. A crack formed in the ground, deep and jagged, swallowing the last flickers of light. Then, the woman leaned closer, her voice low and tantalizing. "Did you really think you could escape your past, Clara?" Clara's heart raced, dread pulling in. Her stomach. "What do you mean?" "Your husband was never who you thought he was, and neither is Nathaniel." Clara shot a glance at Nathaniel, searching his face for answers. His brows furrowed, confusion etched into every feature. "Clara, I swear I don't know." "Stop him," the woman hissed, and before Clara could react, she raised her hand. A flash of energy erupted, slamming into Nathaniel. He gasped, the air knocked out of him as he staggered back, eyes wide with shock. "Nathaniel!" Clara screamed, her heart swirling in panic. She rushed to him, but just as she reached out, the chamber shook violently. Rocks began to fall. The woman's eyes glowed, fierce and unrelenting, and a dark power pulsed around her. "You want to know the truth," she taunted, watching Clara's despair grow. "Nathaniel is not just a farmer. He's a part of this curse." A shattering realization crashed over Clara. Memories crackled in her mind. Moments she'd shared with Nathaniel. The kindness, the laughter. But what if it was all a lie? "No, that can't be true," she whispered, trembling. More tremors shook the ground, quicker now, like the heartbeat of something ancient and terrible awakening. Clara felt the weight of every decision unraveling. "Tell me," she yelled, fear spurring her onward. "Your husband was close to my family. He tried to run, to hide. But secrets like this have a way of returning." The woman's lips curled, a serpent ready to strike. "Nathaniel, what's happening?" Clara turned, desperate for reassurance, but Nathaniel's face twisted with conflict. The flickering shadows cast strange shapes around him, a darkness she had never seen before. I don't remember," he stammered, backing away from Clara, as if she were the source of his terror. Just then, a blinding light erupted from above, piercing through the darkness. Nathaniel shouted, his figure illuminated, and Clara gasped. She could see it now, a mark on his arm, swirling and glimmering like molten metal. "What is that?" she gasped, stepping back. "What are you hiding?" In that instant, the ground beneath her buckled, and the air grew thick with courage. But as Clara stood frozen, Nathaniel's eyes turned cold. The warmth that had once melted her fear, disappearing in a moment. "You don't understand," he whispered, but his voice held no comfort. "I didn't choose this. I was bound to this curse. Just like you." "Bound?" Clara repeated, shock crashing over her like the storm outside. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, a gale swept through the chamber, throwing Clara to the ground. She looked up in horror as the walls rippled, and the woman cackled, her silhouette blurring and shifting like smoke. "This is only the beginning, Clara. Your husband, your new ally, they share a fate intertwined with darkness." The air crackled with energy as Clara's heart raced. "What does that even mean?" A sinister smile spread across the woman's face. "It means the truth shall rise with the dawn, and everyone you love is in peril." Just like that, the woman vanished, leaving behind a chamber filled with thick darkness and the weight of unbearable secrets. The tremors grew stronger, and Clara, feeling the ground shift under her, turned her gaze back to Nathaniel. His face was pale, eyes wide with fear and realization. "What have we unleashed?" Clara whispered, breathless. Their world spun faster than the raging storm outside, secrets poised like daggers ready to fall. Would this be the end, or the beginning of something much worse? Clara did not know. All she could feel was the tightening grip of uncertainty, the storm of devastation looming just ahead. Chapter 2: Shattering Illusions. Clara's breath caught as the darkness wrapped around them. The tremors intensified, rattling her bones. But it was Nathaniel's pale, panicked face that rooted her spot. The words the woman had spoken echoed like a disturbing melody in her mind. Bound to this curse. What did that even mean? "I don't understand!" Clara exclaimed, her voice rising above the chaos. "What does she want from us?" Nathaniel's eyes darted, desperation flooding his features. "I don't know, Clara. But before he could finish, a deafening roar erupted from deep within the chamber. The air shifted. Dust swirled, filling their lungs. Something massive shifted in the shadows. Clara's heart raced, the heavy thud pulsating in her ears. And then she saw it, a dark shape materializing, a massive creature emerging from the depths. It was tangled in smoke, its form shifting and twisting. Panic surged through her like a tidal wave. "Run!" Clara screamed, grabbing Nathaniel's arm, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The beast unleashed a guttural growl, sending a tremor through the earth. The creature lunged, and Clara's world spun. In that split second, an explosion of light burst overhead, brighter than the sun. The walls around them shimmered. Shadows receded before the blazing brilliance. And there, standing at the center of it all, was a figure Clara recognized. Her husband, Daniel. "No!" she gasped, trembling. "It can't be!" His form flickered, ghostly and ethereal, yet impossibly familiar. "Clara," he whispered, longing etched on his face. But there was something wrong. Shadows clung to him, twisting like chains. "Nathaniel, what is happening?" Clara turned, confusion and fear melting her heart. But Nathaniel was fixated on Daniel, a mixture of anger and betrayal washing over him. "Stay away from him!" Nathaniel yelled, fists clenched, eyes blazing. "He's part of this. He always has been." "What?" Clara's heart splintered. "What do you mean?" Daniel raised his hand. "Clara, I didn't come back to hurt you. You have to believe me. I wanted to protect you." "Protect me?" Clara's voice cracked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You left me. You left us. How could you do this?" "We were never safe. I had to bury the past. Before it came back for all of us." His voice fell into a desperate whisper, each word slicing through the darkness like lightning. Before Clara could respond, the creature charged, the shadows consuming it. She screamed as it leaped forward, lips curling in rage. It was coming for her. Nathaniel shoved her aside, just as it crashed against him. "No!" Clara gasped, dread pooling in her stomach as Nathaniel fell, the darkness enveloping him. "Nathaniel!" Everything shattered. The light flickered, and suddenly, with a final roar, everything went silent. Clara blinked, heart pounding in her chest. Where was Nathaniel? And Daniel? Panic flooded her veins as the realization hit. The shadows tightened around Nathaniel, drawing him into their depths. "Please, no!" she cried, reaching for him, her fingers brushing against empty air. The chamber trembled, shadows twisting under the weight of her despair. "What have you done?" Clara gasped, looking to Daniel, her heart aching with confusion and rage. "You brought this. You caused this." Daniel stepped forward, face hardening, chains of darkness still binding him. "I had no choice. It was either him or all of us. They chose him because of the bond he shares with you." "What bond?" But before she could catch her breath, the ground cracked again, and from the fissure shot a dark pulse. Clara fell back as the darkness flared, and suddenly she felt the chains wrapping around her too, binding her. She screamed, breath catching in her throat. Daniel's face contorted, unable to help, shadows clawing at him. "Clara, fight it. You don't have to." But a sudden rush of energy surged through her, tearing at her heart. Everything she thought she knew shattered beneath the weight of an unholy truth. The curse, the shadows, Nathaniel. It was all connected. And as the chamber twisted in chaos, Clara realized all she had thought real, all she had loved was concealed in the darkness. She was bound to it too. "Great! Now we're really trapped!" she choked, struggling against the shadows as reality slipped away. In that chilling moment, the world condensed into one piercing question. What had she really married into? And what must she sacrifice to break free? Chapter 3: The Shattering Truth. The shadows coiled tighter around Clara, squeezing her chest as she fought for breath. The chilling realization of her bond to this darkness sent waves of despair crashing over her. Desperation clawed at her throat. She could feel the weight of everything she had lost, dragging her down into an abyss of doubt. "Nathaniel!" she screamed again, as fear dripped like ice in her veins. He was gone, lost in the cloak of shadows. Daniel's ghost hung just beyond her reach. Anguished yet bound. "Clara, you have to trust me," he called, voice wavering. "This isn't what it seems. Trust." She had known him in life, in laughter and love, But this was an eyes-wide-open nightmare. "You left me!" she shouted, her voice cracking with betrayal. "You're the reason we're in this mess." "I was trying to protect you," he said, anguish etched across his pale features like grief carved into stone. "From the darkness that swallowed me whole. It has roots in our family." The ground trembled again. Clara instinctively stepped back, heart racing. Shadows whispered secrets, dark tales that twisted hope into despair. And then, an unexpected sound sliced through the chaos, a soft, low hum. It grew louder, a heartbeat pulsing steadily in the darkness. Clara turned to Daniel, panic clouding her thoughts. "What is that?" He frowned, the shadows around him flickering like they shared a heartbeat of their own. "I don't know. Stay close. We need to find a way out." But as they huddled together, the ground beneath their feet rippled. And just like that, the walls began to crack and peel away, revealing an even darker void within. From the cracks seeped a strange, vibrant light, a swirling color, bright and inviting, yet foreboding. Clara's heart raced with dread. Shadows writhed away from the brightness, retreating into the dark corners of the chamber. "What is happening?" Clara gasped, a lump forming in her throat. "I don't know, but we need to move." But as they turned to escape, the pulse of light exploded outward, enveloping them in its warmth. It wasn't just light. It felt alive, electric with energy. Eyes wide, Clara gasped as the shimmering color twisted, coiling like serpents around them. And then it hit her, the warmth, the energy. It felt familiar, too familiar. "No," she whispered, dark realization dawning upon her like a looming storm. The light morphed, taking shape before her eyes. Gradually, a figure appeared, stepping out of the brilliance. Clara's heart stopped. It was her mother. "Mom?" she breathed. Disbelief crashing over her like waves. This couldn't be real. "But you're gone." "I'm here, Clara," the figure said, her voice ethereal yet grounded. "I've always been here." Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks. "But how?" "Everything you thought was true has been a labyrinth of lies," her mother said, stepping closer, her expression piercing straight through Clara. "What do you mean? You died." "No, my dear." Her mother's eyes glimmered with sadness. "I was taken, bound to this darkness, to protect you from an even greater truth. The curse is my creation, and now it threatens to consume what little remains of us." Clara staggered back, stunned. "What? You did this? You put me in danger?" "It was for your protection," her mother exclaimed, shadows swirling around her like tendrils, breathing with the grief of a mother's desperate choice. Daniel shook his head in disbelief, glancing at Clara. "Your mother, she was part of this. All along?" "I'll explain everything, Clara," her mother pleaded, extending her hand. But Clara recoiled, understanding crashing over her like waves. "No! You used my life as a pawn in your game." As Clara's words hung in the air, the ground shook violently once more, the light dimming. The chamber throbbed with fury. "Get away from her!" Nathaniel's voice pierced through the chaos, emerging from the shadows. eyes wild. "Stop!" Clara shouted, panic overtaking her. "It's not what you think." But Nathaniel's gaze was fierce, the shadows coiling around him, and just like that, everything changed again. As he lunged forward, the ground beneath them began to split open. "Nathaniel, don't!" Clara screamed. But the very earth between them yawed, sealing them away. In that moment, Clara's heart raced with real dread. What have we done? Before she could comprehend it, the world around her shifted. Everything spiraled into chaos, confusion raining down like fragments of shattered dreams. What had they awakened? What truth lay hidden behind the masks of love and betrayal? And as the darkness swirled, Clara faced her mother, shivers crawling down her spine. Could she trust her still? And was Nathaniel lost forever? The questions hung in the air, heavier than the darkness. The realm of secrets beckoned, promising to reveal what lay beneath. But at what cost? A sudden jolt rocked the chamber as Clara struggled to steady herself. The energy pulsing from the luminous figure, her mother, felt both dangerous and comforting. The weight of opposing truths circled in her mind like a storm, battling for dominance. The shadows pulsed around them, dark whispers clawing at her thoughts. "Nathaniel!" she yelled again, panic filling her voice. "What happened to him?" I won't let him take you too!" Daniel's ghostly form flickered like a candle in the wind, shadows still winding around him like chains. "Mom!" Clara spun back to her mother, desperation wrapping her words. "Why are you here? What is this place?" She fought against the binding grips of fear. But before her mother could answer, the ground shook violently, ripping the air apart, echoing with a spine-chilling roar. A fissure opened wider, jagged edges gleaming with darkness as if demanding to be fed. Amid the chaos, a figure emerged, tall and imposing. Clara stopped breathing. It was Nathaniel, but different. His outline twisted, eyes gleaming with something dark and ancient. He stepped forward, shadows swirling around him, as though they called to him. "Clara, I found the truth." His voice was deep, coated in a strange resonance that raised the hair on her arms. Clara trembled. "Nathaniel, what happened to you?" She reached out, her heart racing, desperate for comfort. "Everything you believed is a lie," he declared, his gaze piercing through her like shards of glass. "I'm not just a farmer. I was chosen a long time ago to be the keeper of the curse, just like your mother." Cold chill traveled down Clara's spine. The intensity of his words gripped her heart. "Chosen? Heaping a curse? What does that even mean?" Daniel stepped forward, shadows flickering dangerously close. "He's part of it too. The darkness binds us all, Clara. It feeds on despair. It flourishes in chains." "No!" Clara cried, clutching her chest as a lump formed in her throat. The realization hit her. Nathaniel had been tied to her destiny from the start. "You're one of them?" "Yes." Nathaniel's voice softened, desperation taking over. "I was meant to protect you, but I lost my way. You were never supposed to find this place." "Find it?" Clara's face twisted in pain. "You brought me here." The ground shifted violently again. The wall cracked deep, sending dust swirling into the air. Shadows screeched in reply, as if enraged at the revelation. The truth was buried, and now it's rising. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the dark abyss. Clara's stomach dropped. What was that? Ellie, she yelled. My children. A fresh wave of fear washed over her, pushing her to take a step toward the darkness. But Nathaniel grabbed her arm. Clara, don't! If you go near that darkness, it will... With a deafening crash, the void erupted. In its wake, the energy flared, revealing a shadowy figure writhing in agony. The air thickened as that figure twisted into focus. Ellie, suspended mid-air, the shadows wrapping around her tiny body. Mommy, she cried, reaching out, her face pale and terrified. No! Clara gasped, heartbreaking. Ellie! Everything shifted in that moment. The shadows transformed, swirling around Clara like a storm, beckoning her closer. Then it clicked. You did this! You brought this upon us! She shouted at Nathaniel, betrayal filling her voice. But then she turned back to Ellie. I'll save you! As Clara lunged toward her daughter, light exploded from within her, illuminating the chamber with fierce intensity. Shadows recoiled, hissing, as her mother stepped forward in that moment. Let me help! Together we can... Before Clara understood the gravity of the moment, the malevolence of the shadows erupted in a wave that threw them all back. In that chaos, an explosion of darkness erupted, spilling secrets into the air. Clara felt the blade of pain pulse through her heart as her memories surged. A flood of images flashed by. Through the haze, everything around her began to twist. Who were they really? And what terrifying truths had they yet to uncover? Shadows beckoned, and, in the distance, a whisper echoed. You thought you knew the truth. And just like that, as the dust began to settle around them, doubts rose in Clara's heart. What sinister path lay ahead, waiting just beyond the veil of darkness? Would her family survive, or was she forever condemned to walk this cursed path? Chapter 4: The Unraveling. Clara's heart pounded like thunder in her ears. She felt the shadows close around her, pulling at her very essence. Ellie! She screamed, desperation spilling from her voice like water from a broken dam. The darkness danced, taunting her. Hungry, Daniel's ghost flickered, shadows whipping away in his form. We have to stop this. Clara, they're awakening something terrible. His urgency sent chills down her spine. What did you do to us? Clara yelled, her voice raw, barely holding back her terror. What does this all mean? But just as Daniel prepared to respond, a blinding light erupted from the fissure. The very same pulse that had sent chills through her. It crackled and surged, a living heartbeat of energy. For a split second, everything felt suspended in the air, held back by an unseen force. Clara squinted against the brightness, heart racing, hope creeping up her spine. And then came the shift. Everything changed. The light exploded, engulfing the entire chamber, shattering the shadows. Clara shielded her eyes, gasping. When the brightness faded, she felt something was off. The air felt heavier, charged with electricity. Silence settled like a fog. Then, without warning, the figure of a man appeared, emerging from the very light. He stepped forward slowly, and Clara's breath caught. It was her husband, but not the Daniel she had known. This was a version of him wrapped in light, held in some sort of luminous grip. He looked regal, powerful, yet deeply troubled. "Daniel?" Clara whispered, stepping back. "What's happening?" But it wasn't the warmth of home she felt. It was a deep, unsettling chill. The spark of recognition in his eyes held a weight of sorrow. "Clara, I never meant for you to find out. The truth must be told. And the time has come." "What truth?" she cried, confusion swirling within her. Was this a rescue? A trap? Before he could answer, a rush of darkness enveloped him, and Clara felt a sickening lurch in her stomach. "No!" she shouted, rushing toward him. But Nathaniel intercepted her, grabbing her arm, desperation painted on his face. "Don't!" he commanded fiercely, eyes wide. "You don't know what you're doing." But it was too late. The shadows thrummed, and Clara's heart raced erratically. Everything felt like a rush, a tide pulling her under. Her vision blurred, and the room trembled. Then, with a jolt, a shocking truth struck her, connecting all the threads she had been blind to. "Daniel," she breathed, the weight of realization hitting like a physical blow. You did this on purpose." Daniel's face twisted in anguish, the glow around him dimming, shadows beginning to seep in again. "No, it was to protect you, to keep you safe from the power hidden within our family. I had to keep you away." "From what?" Clara's voice barely rose above a whisper. The words pierced through the chaos. "What are you hiding?" With a cry that echoed through the chamber, the darkness recoiled, and Clara felt it pulling tighter around her, wrapping her in layers of deceit. Then, as the shadows twirled, something else broke free. Images flashed before her, snippets of memories, faces, places, but most importantly, the faces of her children, living and laughing, all suddenly consumed by shadow. "No!" Clara screamed, dread filling her chest. "They're not safe! You put them in danger!" The shadows surged, twisting like serpents, and she turned, eyes wild, searching for Nathaniel. But he was locked in a battle of his own, shadows crawling up his arms, dragging him back toward the darkness. "Clara, you have to listen," he shouted. "They're not just shadows. They're guardians, bound to the curse." "What guardians?" she cried, tears spilling down her face, the weight of betrayal heavy on her heart. Every word felt like a nail in a coffin. "Why would you let this happen?" But before Nathaniel could answer, the light pulsed violently again, and all at once a scream erupted from the shadows, chilling and raw. Clara looked back just in time to see Ellie being pulled deeper into the void, her small hands grasping for a safety that wasn't there. "Ellie!" Clara screamed, lunging toward her daughter. But the darkness surged, a wall between them, relentless and cruel. And then, with a heart-stopping crash, everything burst forth. Light and shadow collided, an explosion of reality breaking around her. For a moment, Clara was airborne, suspended in chaos, rebounding against everything she believed. Then, silence. Clara blinked, the world around her spinning. And just like that, the darkness fell away, revealing the chilling truth. Daniel's silhouette faded, and in his place stood not only Ellie, but her other children too. All were entwined with shadows, looking lost and confused, but unscathed. Yet something was terribly wrong. Clara focused, trying to understand their expressions. And then she saw it. In the pale flickering light, An emblem carved on Nathaniel's arm glowed fiercely. It was the same mark she had seen before, the one of bound curses, one tied not only to death, but something far worse. The truth crashed down around her, shattering the last fragments of hope. "What are you really?" she whispered, quaking as she stared into Nathaniel's haunted eyes. He opened his mouth to respond, but the darkness surged back, shadows swallowing everything. Clara felt the abyss pull her down, but as the chaos wrapped around her, she heard one final whisper. "Only the truth shall set you free." And just like that, before she could grasp the enormity of it all, they vanished. The air grew quiet again, leaving Clara alone, trembling, haunted by shadows, and consumed by a single question. What had the curse truly awakened? Chapter 5. The Unraveling of Truth. Darkness swirled around Clara, an ominous cloud of dread surrounding her. She gasped, the air heavy with grief and confusion. Daniel's whisper lingered like smoke. "Only the truth shall set you free." But as she stood there, uncertainty gripped her heart. "Ellie?" Her voice cracked under the weight of fear. Silence answered her, a stretching void, filled only with the echo of her own racing heart. The shadows tugged at her, a lingering reminder of the terror that had just unfolded. Had she lost her daughter? Was she trapped in darkness forever? "Clara!" Nathaniel's voice roared from the depths, shaking her to the core. "Get away from her!" She spun around, eyes searching for Nathaniel. But what she saw made her stomach drop. Ellie hung in the air, a flickering light encircling her like a halo, while shadows clawed at her little form. "Mommy!" Ellie cried, reaching out. "No, hang on, baby!" Clara screamed, lunging forward, but the shadows held her back, a choking grip around her throat. Panic surged. What was happening? "Clara, stay back!" Nathaniel shouted, stumbling closer, his own battle evident in the way he moved. There was something different in his eyes, too. Something dark and wild. "Why are you doing this?" she cried, her voice raw. "This isn't who you are." His expression flickered with uncertainty, a split-second glimpse of the man she once knew. "I'm trying to save us all. You have to trust me." Everything spun. The chamber shook violently, shadows roaring like a beast hungry for flesh. Clara felt the walls closing in, the shadows whispering in her ears, beckoning her deeper into their twisted embrace. "Trust you?" Clara gasped, desperation clawing through her. "I can't even trust my own husband." Something in Nathaniel's gaze shifted, as if something fundamental had broken. "You have to listen," he begged, urgency coloring his voice. "It doesn't have to end like this. I can help you if you let me." Then, before she could catch her breath, the shadows around Ellie surged, pulling her into the dark. Clara's heart dropped. A scream tore through her, raw and agonizing. "Ellie!" she wailed, reaching out. The darkness erupted around her, swallowed her vision. Then came a deafening bang. The ground cracked open beneath them, erupting like a volcano, spewing forth its fiery guts. The light, the darkness, everything collided in a whirlwind of chaos. Clara felt herself being sucked down, pulling her into the depths of the earth beneath. "No!" she cried, clawing for anything. And suddenly, Nathaniel was there, gripping her wrists, his strength palpable. But that wasn't all. In the chaos, Clara felt a jolt, an energy, raw and electric. As it coursed through her, a flood of memories pierced her mind. Faces, sounds, all twisting together. And there, in the blur, she saw a vision. Her mother's face, smiling but performing dark rituals, casting a pall of shadows over their family. "Stop! No!" Clara shouted, wrenching free from Nathaniel's grip. "What is happening? Clara!" Nathaniel's face twisted in horror. "Don't!" But the truth surged, pushing her down the rabbit hole of her past. The twisted tendrils of shadows unraveled, revealing memories of betrayal and screams of pain that reverberated in her soul. Clara's mother, her father's darkness, Daniel's whispered lies, it was all intertwined. And then it all clicked. "Mom, you did this!" Clara stumbled back, feeling sick. "The curse, the shadows, you're not who I thought you were." With that realization, the ground itself shuddered violently. The shadows recoiled like a boiling pot, finally unleashing a terrifying roar. And then, beneath the chaos, something else emerged. A figure, shrouded in darkness, yet emanating a twisted light. It stepped forward from the shadows. "Daniel!" Clara gasped. The light around him flickered, revealing not just Daniel, but another familiar face stepping out behind him. Clara's breath caught in her throat. "Surprise!" the figure sneered. It was Clara's mother, her form radiating darkness like a primordial force. "I'm not finished with you yet, my dear." "No! You were never dead!" Clara shouted, shock splintering her heart. As everything blurred again, the remnants of trust shattered, leaving only questions that taunted her in the broken silence. "What are you planning?" But her mother merely smiled. "Deceit. To reclaim what was lost. To awaken the past that you have tried so hard to bury." Clara gasped, hands trembling. The world jerked back into chaos, everything swirling like a cyclone. Each pulse of light and shadow pressed down on her. Uncertainty filled her. Where did the game end? And where did the real fight begin? She was lost in a storm of turmoil. And yet, there was still one choice left. Would she choose the shadows or fight for the light? And deep down, an answer rose. The truth shattered before her, as everything she knew hung delicately in the balance, threatening to break apart. But would something rise from the ashes of betrayal? Or were they doomed to be consumed by darkness? As the darkness closed around Clara, a surge of defiance burned within her. The chaos roared, and she could feel the pull of the shadows trying to reclaim her. With every ounce of strength, she turned towards her mother, the source of so much pain. "You can't take us. Not anymore," she shouted, her voice steady. "Clara, you don't understand," her mother hissed, the shadows shifting like serpents at her feet. "I did this for you, to protect you from the truth." "No, you've only brought more pain," Clara cried, tears streaming down her face. "You've made everything worse." As her heart raced, she glanced towards Nathaniel, who was struggling against the darkness, threatening to engulf him. "Fight, Clara," Nathaniel urged, panic filling his eyes. "You have to believe in the light." Determined, Clara took a deep breath, her mind racing. The glowing light from earlier shimmered in her memory, a beacon of hope. "Ellie, Tommy, Sarah," she called out, channeling all her motherly love into her voice. "We're going to be okay. Hold on." The shadows hesitated, swirling as if caught in a storm. Clara's resolve strengthened, merging with the love for her children and the support of Nathaniel at her side. "Together!" she shouted, and with that, she charged toward the swirling darkness, hand outstretched. "Clara, wait!" Nathaniel yelled, but it was too late. She felt the darkness wrap around her. But this time, it felt different. Light erupted from her, bright and pure. It pushed back against the shadows, illuminating every corner of the chamber. "No!" her mother screamed, the darkness flickering and faltering under the light. "You can't escape the truth." "I won't suit your lies," Clara shouted back, pouring her strength into the light. "The truth is not fear, it's love." As the light intensified, the shadows shrieked, revealing frightening forms. For just a moment, faces twisted by regret and rage as they fell away. Retreating from the brilliance, Clara turned to Nathaniel, who mirrored her determination. Together, they created a swirling cyclone of light that shot through the chamber, breaking the chains of darkness that once held them captive. The ground shook violently, fissures opening wide. The chamber erupted in explosion after explosion, the very fabric of despair breaking apart. Clara felt the warmth of her children surround her, the genuine love that had always shielded her. "Mommy!" Ellie's voice broke through the tumult, a held breath of relief. "You did it!" "Yes!" Clara cried, pulling her children close as the darkness dissolved. "We did it!" With a final cry, the darkness shattered, scattering into nothingness. Clara gasped, seeing her mother's figure dissolve in the light, replaced by the shadows of regret never to haunt them again. As the chaos faded, Clara blinked against the coming dawn, radiant golden light bathing them in warmth. Nathaniel stood beside her, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Clara. I thought—" "We're free now," Clara whispered, her heart swelling. "And we'll pick up the pieces together." Hand in hand, they turned to face their children, who beamed with joy. A new beginning stretched out before them, a chance to rebuild a foundation shattered by deception. As they stepped into the sunlight, the weight lifted. No more shadows, just the warmth of a world awaiting their next adventure. But as they embraced their newfound freedom, a certainty hung in the air. Darkness could return, lurking always in the corners of life, and secrets could rise again. Now, as you finish this story, it's essential to connect with us on this journey. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss upcoming exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What do you think lies ahead for Clara and her family? Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. If you like stories about farmers and want to uncover the hidden truths of life on the farm, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. You need to watch this now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait another second to share.